everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today we're going to talk about the MBA program at the University Carlos III in Madrid. My name is Nelly, and I'll be the moderator on behalf of the UniMy team, and I'm here with a few very interesting guests. I will start with presenting Jaime Ortega, who is the Associate Professor of Management at Carlos III. And I'm here as well with two former students, Benjamin Fuchs and Isabel Davis, who share their experience with us. To everyone who is listening, you can ask questions anytime during the webinar using the Q&A box, and we'll take time to answer at the end of the session. All questions are welcome, so don't hesitate. I think that everything is set now, so I'm giving the word to you, Jaime.
Nelly, and welcome everyone to this webinar about the UC3M MBA program. So the first thing I wanted to do is thank you for being here. I'm going to give a short introduction to the program to basically tell you the main aspects that you need to know about this MBA program. And then I'm going to have some discussion with Benjamin and Isabel, which is going to cover their own experience with the MBA program, which I think should be very, very useful to all of you. Okay, so what is this MBA program? Well, we are essentially located at the center of Madrid in a building that has been fully renovated and which hosts all of the university's master's programs. So basically, our MBA students are sharing the facilities with other students from other master's programs. But all of these students on campus are master level students. We are located in the city center of Madrid, relatively close to the Royal Palace and Opera House in a very nice area. And as I said, the building is a fully renovated building with very nice facilities. Our MBA program is a one-year program. So it starts at the beginning of September, end of August, beginning of September, and it ends towards the middle of July. Okay, so that's basically a one-year program, and it is designed as a full-time program. So all of our students are taking a year off their careers to come to Madrid and to engage in the MBA program. What are the main features of our program? Well, I would say the first really main feature of our program is that it is very international. Okay, it is conducted totally in English, and our students come from very different countries. Okay, so essentially in a typical class, which may have about 30 students, we normally have about a third of the students coming from other countries of Europe, another third coming from America, North America, and Latin America, and another third coming from Asia. Okay, and the mix is really quite balanced. So this means that you're going to interact with people from many different backgrounds, both culturally and in terms of academic background. Okay, so I think this diversity, this international diversity, is really a big asset because it makes the experience of the MBA really unique for our students. A second feature of the program, which I think is very important, is its double accreditation. We are accredited by the Association of MBAs, and the university itself is also accredited by AACSB. Okay, as you probably know, AACSB is the main accreditation body in North America, and therefore, for those of you who come from North America, that's a really important thing, because this means that if you go back to North America to look for a job after your MBA, you're going to have basically a guarantee of quality that all potential employers are going to understand. Then AMBA is Association of MBAs accreditation, is a much more global accreditation. AMBA is based in London, and its origin is UK based, but it has become really very international, and it's present in all continents. Okay, less so maybe in North America, because in North America AACSB is so strong, but it is present in Europe, both UK and outside of UK, in Latin America, in Asia, in Africa, in Oceania. So they're basically present everywhere. Just a few words about accreditation, because I think this is something that often prospective students do not understand too well. Accreditation is, of course, a seal of quality, But what's behind accreditation is really a process of continuous improvement. So for instance, if you take a AMBA accreditation, okay, there is an AMBA committee that comes to the university basically every 4 or 5 years. They evaluate our degree. This means that they look at everything from admissions to the curriculum, to how faculty coordinate, to what the students think about the program, to links with employers. So they look at all of that. And towards the end of their visit, they give us a number of recommendations. And these recommendations are tasks that we have to work on for the following 4 or 5 years, which means that after 4 to 5 years, when they come back, they are going to check that we did all the things that they wanted us to do. So what I mean by that is that accreditation is not just kind of a static seal of quality, but what's behind accreditation is a continuous improvement process. Okay, so I think that's very important to keep the quality of the program up to date. And then, just to be brief, I will mention a last feature that I think is very important in our MBA program, which is our collaboration with real startup companies. As part of their MBA, all of our students conduct a business plan analysis. This is something that students conduct in groups. And basically what they do is they analyze the business of a company, and they produce a business plan to help this company basically grow or to help this company start. Okay. Initially, years ago, students would choose a business plan idea. Okay, so they would say, hey, I would like to think about business in renewable energies. Okay, and they would work out a business plan to basically launch a company in the renewable energies industry. Now this has changed, and what we've done is we've helped students work with actual companies. So the university has a science park, which includes a business incubator, and that business incubator hosts many startup companies, which are for the most part high technology companies. So these are companies that are just beginning to work. They are starting to figure out, what's the market for the product, how the product can be of interest to anyone, how they should price their product, how they should market their product. And our students are working with these companies to basically draft the business plan. So that's a really cool feature of our program, I think, because towards the beginning of the program, we have some business presentations that are given by these startup companies. So each startup company gives kind of a short introduction. They explain what their business idea is, and our students are listening, they are making questions, and then through a process, of course, of discussion with these companies, they join into groups and they decide to work with one of these startups. And then starting at that point, which is usually towards October or November, they start working side to side with these companies to think about all these questions. So basically, what is a relevant market segment for this company? Okay, how should they make their product attractive to potential clients? How should they price it? How should they do so that their finances work out? Okay, so you're basically going to be working with an actual company that is starting, and you're going to help this company develop its business plan. So I think that's a very nice feature of the program, because these are high-tech companies, and for the most part, the entrepreneurs are technology people. So these are engineers who've had a very good idea for a product, but they don't necessarily understand too well what the best way to market the product is, or how to figure out the finances of their company, and so on. So that's where our students come in, and they help them develop this part. Okay, so I think that gives you an overview of the program. Of course, I've just mentioned some of the features that are unique to our program, but this is an MBA program that has many other features that are common to all MBA programs. Okay, let me just mention one, which is that, like all MBA programs, the program is designed to help students from any possible backgrounds. Okay, so our students are very diverse, not only in terms of countries of origin, as I just mentioned, but also in terms of their academic backgrounds. Okay, so we have a good percentage of engineers in the class every year. We also have a good number of people with an economics or business administration background, but we also have people with backgrounds in sociology, in sciences, math, okay, humanities. So basically, the MBA program is designed to help everyone, no matter what the starting point is, to develop a good type of expertise in business. Okay. So after this short introduction about the program, what I thought I would do would be to discuss with Benjamin and Isabel some of the main things I think that can be of interest to the audience. So I will start asking a first question, which I think is probably most relevant for most people in the audience, which is, why did you choose to do an MBA and why did you choose UC3M? So what was the process for you, okay, for choosing to do the MBA and eventually for deciding to come to UC3M? So Benjamin, if you want, you can start.
Sure, very warm welcome from my side also. My name is Benjamin. To your first question, what was my motivation or what was the process? For me, it wasn't an easy thing because I was in a very good job. I recently got promoted, so everything was fine. And I really didn't have a reason to initiate a change. However, it was always my personal ambition and goal to get the best possible academic background for all the future challenges. So I had a personal goal to get a master's degree by the time I turned 30 years old. And yeah, then I took the chance and I looked to answer your second question. I'm a quite analytical guy. So I checked all the universities in Europe and also overseas. I really compared the programs and the infrastructure, the lectures and the professors. And yeah, I can honestly say that you don't get a better value for money than at UC3M. So I was impressed by the infrastructure, the lectures, the professors, and this is why I have chosen Madrid and UC3M as my university. And yeah, to be very honest, what is wrong about choosing Madrid? It is a beautiful city, beautiful weather, nice people. So I never regret it.
Benjamin, I forgot to ask you the first question, which I meant to ask, which was to briefly tell us what you do right now at your job.
Yes, I'm currently a deputy market head in the private banking department. We consult very wealthy private clients in actually all financial matters and topics. So it's investments, it's financing. So those are very wealthy private clients and also very wealthy families. And we consult them in all financial aspects. So I always had a financial background, and this is why the MBA helped me to get a broader knowledge of all the other subjects as well.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. So my second guest is Isabel Davis. And Isabel, thank you very much for being here. And I also wanted to ask you to first introduce yourself briefly and tell us what your job is right now, what you're working on. And then my question would be, as for Benjamin, to tell us a bit about your decision process. Okay, how was it for you to decide to do an MBA, and then which things did you pay attention to when you decided to eventually come to UC3M?
Thanks, Jaime, and welcome to everybody in the webinar today. So my name is Isabel Davis. I'm a business value consultant for a technology firm called Pegasystems. And I might need to expand a little on that because I myself didn't know that this role existed before I applied for it. So my role is, as the software provider that I work for, provides software to a number of different industries, anything from banking to telecommunications to industry. So there's a wide variety of businesses to which they offer their services, but they are a very technical company. So I'm echoing kind of what Jaime was saying earlier about sometimes the startups with whom you're working have got a lot of technical knowledge, but not always as much on the business side. So in my role, I support our sales people in building business cases to explain and articulate all of the business outcomes that our technology could bring. And I did this in Madrid with some of our Spanish clients, and I've recently relocated to the UK where I'm doing the same here. And so that's a little bit about what I do today. And to answer the other question in terms of how I chose UC3M, I'm not perhaps as analytical as Benjamin, although I did do some research. In terms of why I wanted to do an MBA in the first place, I was working in the financial industry, and I actually wanted to shift out of that industry and try something new, but I wasn't quite sure in which direction I wanted to go. And somebody suggested to me that an MBA might be a good way to get a sort of a very holistic standing and open a few doors in terms of being able to shift to a number of different industries. And so I started doing a bit of investigation. I wanted also to take the opportunity to learn another language. And I'd always had an affinity with Spanish. So in all truth, I was already fairly focused that I wanted to go somewhere in Spain. I had a good friend in Madrid who actually recommended the university to me, saying of its national and international reputation as being a university that's of high standing and that provides some quality courses. And I, of course, did that cost-benefit analysis as well, and really is a very good value for money compared to some of the other programs available out there. So that's how I ended up in UC3M and making that decision.
Thank you very much, Isabel. So then I wanted to talk a little bit about the experience of the MBA. So one first question I wanted to ask you is what surprised you the most when you started? Okay.
Shall I start, or Isabel?
Go for it, Benjamin. Go for it.
First of all, I was impressed by the quality of the professors and the lectures, the deep know-how we got from all the different courses. And to be very honest, I was also a bit surprised by the intensity of the whole program. Well, back home in Switzerland, like MBA degrees, they take 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. So and here at UC3M, it's the whole course is in less than 1 year. So that makes the whole timetable a bit packed. And the intensity was high, and we learned a lot, and we worked hard. And I didn't expect that in this case.
So interesting you should say that, Benjamin, because I had a somewhat similar experience insofar as when I joined, I had in mind that perhaps I would get a part-time job to that would be one way of improving my Spanish, but it became clear very, very quickly that if I wanted to do well in this MBA, there was not much room for any part-time jobs at all. Having said that, I think one of the things that surprised me or delighted me, I guess, was the diversity of backgrounds on so many different levels that really challenged me to Well, I actually, at first, I might have found it a little difficult, if I'm honest. It really forced me to challenge my own perceptions and my own ideas, but then actually it ended up being very enriching to have such varied backgrounds and varied point of views on how to approach a problem or a question or a piece of, a piece of work to be done as part of the UC3M. And I think I imagine you're continuing to support, Jaime, the group work that happens alongside. And I think that's one of the things that I was not expecting, was the fact that that's part and parcel of working collaboratively with all these different backgrounds, is part and parcel of the MBA, which really helps broaden your perspectives.
That's something that we continue to encourage, and I did not mention that when I introduced the program, but there's a great deal of teamwork actually, as you both experience. So, of course, to make this manageable, what we do is we assign people a team for the first semester, and people work with this same team for all subjects, and then we reshuffle everything at the beginning of the second term, so that people work in a different team with different people, and yeah, and it's a recurring comment that we receive from our students that sometimes upsets faculty, right? Because people say, "I've learned more from my classmates than from the faculty." Okay. So of course, people learn from both classmates and faculty, but I think there's this hands-on experience of working on a program with people who have different backgrounds. Sometimes it's challenging. Yes, you have to develop these skills to work in teams, which I think are very important for the job market. Yeah. And then moving on to the overall experience in Madrid, I would ask you to select a few aspects of the experience that for you were particularly important, both in terms of the academics, but also the overall experience, because there's so much, since it is a full-time program, there's a lot going on in the classrooms, of course, but there's also so much going on outside of the classrooms. When you talk with people, when you get to know other people, you learn about their backgrounds and so on. So my next question, Benjamin, would be if you could tell us more about this whole experience of being for 1 year in Madrid, which things were most important to you?
Okay, I start with the academic factors. As I said, I come from a finance background with knowledge in finance particularly, and now in my leadership position that I have now, I really need all the other aspects as well, like HR skills or technology management skills, and I really learned that through the whole year, and this was fantastic. And I think I'm a better employee with the MBA. Much more development was made personally, I think, even more. I think, first of all, the network is phenomenal. You said it, Jaime and Isabel, people from all over the world, different industries, different cultures, and this was fantastic, and we still have a great bond there. Then also I gained many personal skills as well, like problem-solving skills or social skills. This was fantastic, and I think I'm a better human being with the MBA, almost. And for me, it was just going out of my comfort zone. For you, Isabel, it's at least English, your native language. For me, it was even English was not my native language, and Spanish. I couldn't speak any word of Spanish before I went to Spain. So it was really to adapt to a changing environment, to a new world, and this is what today's job market is about also. So great experiences academically and personally. Yes.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. Isabel.
Thank you. So I'd say from an academic or a learning perspective, one of the main things that I got from it actually was a little bit beyond the individual courses. So I think each person had more or less affinity with certain classes and others because of background or because of ability or interest. But actually what it brought to me was it gave me the courage and the knowledge that I could tackle pretty much any subject. It gave me more confidence to have that I had a baseline understanding of such a wide variety of subjects, and that if I wanted to extend it further, that I had that foundational knowledge. And if there was a topic that I didn't know, I felt like I had the tools to gain enough of an understanding to help me in my day-to-day work. I would agree with you, Benjamin, that having English as a first language was definitely an advantage, but also not a necessity, because as well as all of the students being international, what I quite enjoyed was all of the professors also came from quite different backgrounds and didn't necessarily have English as a native language. And so I feel like there was, that made some kind of a balance. On a personal level, the contacts that you make and the friends that you make it's just a great experience. I mean, I'm going to the wedding of one of my MBA classmates next year in Rome. So, it's really nice to kind of build those relationships across the globe and across so many different backgrounds.
I think you made a great point. Sorry, Jaime, that it gives you confidence to tackle any challenge that comes up. You will agree that we had a lot of tasks that in the beginning we didn't have a clue on how to solve a specific task or a project, and with the MBA or with these experiences, you get more confident in solving any problem and make your way through also difficult times. Yeah,
I think that's an interesting point, because it also has to do with the variety of backgrounds that people have when they come to the MBA. So basically, of course, there's people with more of a business background, but many people don't necessarily have a very wide business background, even those who have a business background. And so there's going to be always some subjects that are challenging in terms of mindset. Okay, so I always say that, for instance, for engineers, the courses that are more technical are relatively easier. But then when it comes to discussing things that have to do with organizational behavior, organizational psychology, HR, they often are a bit lost. Okay, they don't know very well how to, tackle these things and so on. And this happens with every subject, because the subjects are so diverse, right? They cover such a broad range of disciplines and areas. And so and another thing that is related to what you were saying is the fact that there's a big number of electives that students can choose from. So basically, within the MBA program, there's a core that covers all of the business areas, but then within that core, it's up to each student to basically decide whether to put more emphasis, for instance, on finance or on marketing, and that I think is a very important thing too. So, for instance, one of the electives that we introduced recently is called Emerging Technology Trends, and that was introduced after you graduated, so you didn't have a chance to take it, but that has been very successful, because what we do is we invite people from the industry who are experts in introducing some new technologies, and they basically tell us about the prospects that these technologies have when it comes to business. Okay, so we've had sessions on, for instance, artificial intelligence, different topics that are basically going to be central to business development in the following years. So that too is challenging in the sense that it forces you to view business in a way that is different to what you were used to. Moving on, I wanted to ask you a question that perhaps many people who are listening to you may have, which is, okay, once I decide to go for an MBA, and given that you've already done your MBA, you've had several years of work experience afterwards, what advice would you give people who are listening to you in terms of getting the most out of the MBA? Okay, what is the right mindset to have when you go for an MBA? Which things you think are really important for people to do while they are studying their MBA, and which things are maybe not so important?
Isabel, do you want to start?
Sure, thank you, Benjamin. So related to some of the surprises or challenges that I came across, I'd say for me, one of the main things is to keep an open mind, to be ready to learn and to discover, and to really try and be prepared to stretch what you know to be true, and be open-minded to learning new perspectives and new things. That's probably for me a key thing that if I were to talk to myself back in September 2016, I would tell myself to be a bit more flexible and a bit more open-minded to what's about to happen.
I think that's a great answer, and I can fully agree. Being open-minded is key. I also would recommend to be fully involved in the project. So really go for it, work with your teammates, look at the different opinions and views, and try to make the best out of it, and don't always choose the easiest way. I would say we had a lot of tasks where there was an obvious simple solution, but there was a better one uncovered. So yeah, try to find the best way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Benjamin. It's the moment to take risks, because there's nothing at stake, and you might as well be creative and try new things. It's definitely the time to do it. Couldn't agree more.
It's very important in an academic environment, a postgraduate academic environment. As you said, Isabel, it's a safe environment in which you're encouraged to basically, if you have questions, if you have ideas that are, maybe you think it's a bold idea, I don't know if this is relevant or not. It's an environment in which students feel comfortable to share their ideas, to ask questions, and that I think enhances the learning, because often in a workplace environment, I mean, depending on the corporate culture, there are corporate cultures in which maybe asking certain questions might, you might think, well, what are the consequences if I ask this question, and so on. Or maybe you might feel not so bold in terms of presenting ideas, because maybe, particularly if you are not too senior, you don't know if this is going to be, a good thing to do. And I think the MBA environment is an environment in which people are encouraged to express their ideas, and there is no penalty for expressing ideas. And I think everybody learns. And my own experience as a professor is that the questions asked by people who think that they don't know much about the subject are the most challenging ones. Okay, so as you know, I teach the economics course, and I'm most afraid of the questions that come from people who don't know any economics, because typically these are questions that are totally out of the box. Okay, So while people who already have some economics background, their mindsets are more kind of used to economics, and so questions are more predictable. Okay, but often very nice questions come from or comments come from people who don't have necessarily much of a background, and these are questions that make classes so much more interesting. Yeah. So then moving on to your career after graduation, I wanted to ask you in which ways the MBA has been relevant to you as you've developed your career. So, for instance, Benjamin, you mentioned that even though you work in private banking, and one would think, well, maybe in private banking, what's really important is just finance, right? But you were mentioning that's not the case. I mean, there's other things that are really very relevant in my job. So I just wanted to ask you to elaborate a bit on that. Okay, how do you think the learning through the MBA program has been important to you more recently in your career?
Well, first of all, I'm in a position now after the MBA that I wouldn't be in without the MBA. So it was a position that clearly had an MBA degree as an entry requirement. So having said that, I have the job also because of the MBA program. And within my job, I really need a lot of skills from the year in Madrid. All the subjects, the know-how I gained, of course, but also the social skills and all the other aspects. So the MBA was really crucial for the step I was able to take professionally. Yeah.
So from my perspective, I already started to draw some parallels earlier because as part of my job, I touch so many different industries and have to create business cases for so many different topics that really that groundwork, that foundational knowledge is always every day helpful for me in my job. Equally, I could be in front of a CFO or a chief financial officer or a chief marketing officer, and having that knowledge from the MBA means that I have at least the language I can share, if not the in-depth knowledge of each and every subject. I'm not a subject matter expert in marketing or in finance, but all of the skills that I learned during the MBA allowed me to be able to level the playing field, and I use the knowledge every day, and it also helps me to understand the customers that I'm serving better, to understand how their business model actually works, what their drivers are, what they would actually be interested in, what their challenges are. So it's I would say crucial to my current job to have done the MBA.
What you just said is interesting, because I see there's something in common between the diversity of the program, the fact that people come from so many different international and academic backgrounds, and also the breadth of the program, because in both cases, what this gives you is, as you both mentioned, an ability to understand your clients better. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine that in both cases, you may have international clients, or even if clients are not international, they may have an international origin, and being able to relate to them, to understand them, is of course very important. And then, as you mentioned, Isabel, having a broad knowledge of business is very important to understand the concerns that clients may have, and therefore what the value proposition is of your company that may be of use to these clients. So I think that's I think that's quite an interesting point in both cases. Yeah. So speaking of that, one of the new electives that we've introduced recently is precisely about it's called Creating and Communicating Value, and it's basically about I think very related to your job, Isabel, because it's about how to create a value proposition and how to communicate it well to clients. Okay, so that's one of the things that we are also working on within the MBA program.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So, well, I think it's been very interesting. I don't know if you would like to add anything else to people who are listening to us. Maybe some of people in the audience have already taken a look at our website. They know a little bit about the program. Maybe others have not had a chance yet to get more information. But is there anything that you would advise them to do more specifically with regards to the application process?
I just say go for it. Take the risk. There is no better investment than in your education. And Isabel and I, we are here. If you have personal questions, also after the call. And yeah, go for it. It's worth it. And there is a lot of sun in the UK, as it seems.
Yes, I'm actually. It's suddenly come around. So apologies for the image quality because of the sun. You don't expect it in Scotland, but sometimes it comes. I know there's some questions in the Q&A box, so I don't have anything more to add from what.
Perfect. So maybe we can go over the questions.
Thank you very much, Jaime, for sharing this useful information about the program, and Benjamin and Isabel for sharing about your experience. Just to give a chance to Benjamin and Isabel to rest a little bit, Jaime, let's start with a few questions related to the admission process. Okay, we have the question, do you offer GMAT waiver? And if not, what score do I need to apply?
Yeah. GMAT is not compulsory to apply to the program. So if you have GMAT, then we consider it, but otherwise it is not necessary to apply to the program. Okay, so we look at your academic records. We also look at the university where you conducted your degree, and we also interview you. Okay, so that gives us quite a bit of information about you.
This is very useful to hear, and maybe you can also mention, do you need English language certificate or not?
Yes, you do need an English language certificate unless you've conducted your studies in English. Okay, so for instance, if you are not a native speaker of English, but you did your bachelor's degree in English, then you don't need to provide a certificate. But otherwise, we do need a certificate, and it's actually quite important because, as I said earlier, the program is totally conducted in English. And then we also have the personal interview in which we double check your language level. So yes, that's very important and it's required.
Thank you very much for giving this information. And another interesting question is, do you assist with visa for people who are coming outside from the EU?
So once you are admitted into the program, we give you an admission letter, which is what you have to take to the consulate to ask for your visa. So we do not do the visa procedure for you, that you have to do personally, but we provide you with a document that is basically the document that you need to apply for the visa. So yeah, that's an important question also, because depending on, so if you do need a visa, then it's very important that you apply very soon, because the delays, the time that it takes to get a visa may vary from country to country. There are consulates in which this may be relatively fast, but there are consulates in which it may not be as fast. Okay, so our estimate is that or the university's estimate is that it may take as much as 75 days to get a visa. So that means that of course it may take much less. Okay, it depends very much on the consulate. So what I would advise you to do is, if you know that you will need a visa, then first of all, apply as soon as possible so that we can review your application, we can conduct the interview, and we can make a decision regarding your admission. And then also ask at the consulate to see what the approximate time is for you to get a visa. That's very important, actually.
Okay, there is also another administrative question. It's about family residence permits. Do you assist with this, or it's something that they should check with the consulate and the embassy?
So they should check that with the consulate. It may vary from country to country, so that's something that you have to check with the consulate. Okay, so typically, if you get a visa to study for the MBA, then if you are married, then your spouse will also get a visa. Okay, but then the conditions of the visa will depend, okay, on each country.
Okay, Jaime, I have more questions for you, but let's get one for Benjamin and Isabel now. There is someone asking, how much time did you spend outside of class to keep up with the studies? You already mentioned, both of you, that it was a busy program. Maybe telling us a little bit more how your day and weeks looked like.
Okay, I'm gonna give an answer. Benjamin, you can contradict me, or maybe it was different in your time. As I said earlier, it is intense. So the classes themselves are usually they were at the time anyway a 9 to 5 schedule with a lunch break. I see Jaime nodding, so I assume that is still the same. And I would say that per day, on top of that, there was probably at least a couple of hours, 2 to 3 hours additional time to study either in group or individually. There was also, we also did some work at the weekends, depending on heavy deadlines or revision schedules. But it's not, it's not intense all of the time. There's also time for fun and relaxing and getting to know your classmates. And because a lot of the work outside of the classes is very group based, it actually is not, it's not the same dynamic. So there's a change in the dynamics throughout the day, and somehow you do find the energy because the topics are so interesting, and it's like solving a puzzle a lot of the time, but just on different levels. So that's what I found. I'd say an additional anything between 1 and 3 hours each day after the classes, plus some weekend work.
I fully agree on that. Also 9 to 5 was also in our case, or in our year, the case, and 1 to 3 hours sounds about right. And also on the weekends, it's just you had to organize it.
Yeah.
The good thing was that the farther you went through the year, the more your classmates became like friends, and it was like working with friends. So it wasn't that bad. And after a session of group works, you had a drink or two. So yeah, was a good time. But intense.
I think that is still, yeah, I just wanted to confirm that the schedules are still the same. So it's 9 to 5 most of the time. But then, as you know, in the second semester, since you're choosing your electives, there may be differences. There may be days in which you don't start at 9 or you finish earlier. And then on campus we have small rooms for teams to meet. So these are rooms that are well equipped with a whiteboard and Wi-Fi and everything. Yeah.
yeah, those rooms become your friend, definitely.
Okay, and talking about the MBA schedule, Jaime, there is a question about how the school year looks like. Do classes end in December and then students come back in January for their exams for the first semester, or how does it work?
So there are 2 semesters. The first one starts at the beginning of September, and it ends at the beginning of December, mid-December. Okay. Then we have exams in January, which is different from when you did your MBA, which we have had the exams in December, but now we have exams in January. And then starting in February, we have the second semester, which goes until May. And then at the end of May, we have again exams. Then, you know that I mentioned earlier that the program ends in mid-July. So what happens between end of May and mid-July? Well, basically what happens is that students are finishing up their business plans. Okay, so that's most of the time is spent finishing up their business plan projects, which are basically their master's thesis projects. Okay, then I should also mention that before the first semester starts, we have 2 weeks in which we give some preparatory courses. So these are courses that are meant to give some background in some of the topics where maybe there are greater differences across students. So we have preparatory courses for finance, for accounting, and for statistics. Okay, so it's basically 2 weeks in which you have some very short refresher courses that are meant to give you some background to help you start the first semester. And then the length of the courses is of 2 types. There are courses that are 10-week courses. So in these courses, you're going to have 3 hours of class per week during 10 weeks. Okay. So normally all of the compulsory courses are 10-week courses. Okay, 30-hour courses. Okay, so you're typically going to meet, for instance, on Monday morning, and every Monday morning for 10 weeks, you're going to have this same course. And then we have shorter courses, which are 5-week courses, in which you will also have 3 hours per week, but only through a period of 5 weeks. Okay, and typically all of the electives are of this type. Okay, so they are shorter courses. Okay, so this means that also the second semester, I don't know if Benjamin and Isabel you will agree, but I think the second semester students find more dynamic in the sense that courses are changing all the time, and it's kind of more dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jaime, for going through the class schedules and the whole school year. And I'm very happy that you mentioned the business plan, because there is actually a question for the alumni: what was your master thesis? So there is no master thesis, there is a business plan. Maybe if you both, if you can share a little bit how it was, the work and the experience writing a business plan.
Yeah, just before, let me clarify. So the business plan is a team project. Okay, so you're going to work on this throughout the course with 3 other people, normally 3-4 other people. And then towards the end of the course, each of you is going to submit one part of the business plan, and that is going to be your own master thesis. So basically, your master thesis is going to be, for instance, the financial plan within a broader project, which is the business plan for for some company. Yeah. So go ahead, Benjamin and Isabel.
Go ahead, Benjamin.
Yeah. So the question, I think, was what was your business plan about? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We created virtually a company that sells cars online. So we had a business idea that we created a platform through which a potential car buyer can find the best price and the best dealership for buying his car. So as Jaime mentioned, we had to create all the different parts of the business plan. My part was the strategy part. As I said, I'm from the finance. I have a finance background, so I really didn't want to do the finance part to broaden my horizon. And this was a really good thing. And we had as I say, a really good business plan, and we would have been able to really go live with the project. And this was a great experience for all of us, and we really learned from each other and from the mentors and professors that worked along with us. Yeah, it was great.
So for my team and we worked on a business plan with a startup, and this startup was a Portuguese startup who made architectural panels from bio-waste, so the byproducts of coffee production, beer production, wine production. So it was a very sustainability oriented business, and it was actually really interesting to work on something which already existed. And I think also the startup was at the right stage. She didn't yet have a clear idea of where what her markets were, or how she was going to push it forward. So in that sense, it was super interesting. And even beyond the MBA, I actually helped the startup again after the master's to be accepted into a startup incubator that was run by IKEA. And I spent a few weeks in Älmhult in Sweden supporting the startup. So it was really quite broad and a really interesting topic.
Thank you for sharing these insights. Both of them sounds like really interesting projects and business plans. Okay, I have a couple of more administrative questions and then one final question for Benjamin and Isabel. So Jaime, first for you, if you can tell us a little bit about the scholarships that you offer, and especially if you have scholarships for people with refugee status.
So we offer scholarships that have basically this tuition discounts. Okay, so that's the type of scholarships that we offer. For instance, this year we've offered 3 scholarships of 3,000 euros. The thing is that for those of you who are interested in starting next September, the call is already closed, so you would have to apply for the following year. We do not have, as far as I know, we do not have any specific scholarships for refugees, but these are the scholarships that we have. I should also mention that our fees are so we are a public university, and one of the things that's important to us is that our fees are not excessive. I mean, of course, it's an expensive program because all MBA programs are expensive, but it's not as expensive as other programs that are also double accredited and that you can see out there. That's because we are a public university, and therefore, as part of our mission, we want to give equal opportunities and equal access to people with different economic backgrounds. Okay, so every time we want to consider an increase in tuition fees, we have to ask the university for this increase, and the university has to ask for permission to the regional government. And generally, because of the mission of the university, our fees cannot increase too much. So the fees that we currently have, which are 19,800 euros, with a lower fee for EU nationals of 13,500. So these fees have been the same fees for the last few years. Okay, so we haven't changed the fees. So, but yes, going back to the scholarships, for the coming academic year, there's unfortunately no option for you to get a scholarship. But if you're planning to apply in 2023, 2024, okay, which seems like very far, but it's not so far. So then in that case, the call for the scholarships applications usually opens in December. Okay, so basically in December 2022, we should announce the scholarships on our website. Yeah, and the scholarships are awarded on a rolling basis. So this means that if you apply relatively earlier, you have, I think, a greater chance of getting it than if you apply later.
Thank you very much for sharing this. Very encouraging. And going back once again to the profile of the people who you usually admit in the program, there is a person saying, I'm 39 years old and I have 20 years of marketing experience. Can I apply for this program? So basically, what do you seek for, how many years of managerial experience and working experience do you seek in the candidates who apply for this program?
Yes, that's a very good question. So there is a minimum work experience required of 3 years. And so when we compute work experience, we look at years of work experience after the bachelor's degree. That's normally the way we do it. Although there may be exceptions depending on the type of work experience, but generally we compute work experience after the student has graduated from the bachelor's degree. So there's this minimum work experience of 3 years, but there is no maximum work experience. Okay, so we've had students, many students with experience of 3, 5, 7 years. But also we've had some students, not many, but some students do with a work experience of 15 years or 20 years. So that's not per se, that's not an issue for us. That's, I think we think it's very enriching for the class, and we just look at the motivation of the candidate as we do for any other candidate. Yeah.
Great to hear. Okay, so final question for Benjamin and Isabel. Can you share what was your favorite class or the class that was the most difficult for you? Benjamin, do you want to start?
Isabel, you can go first if you want.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, I think each person, depending on their background, has got particular affinities with one class or another. But actually, I think I was surprised at the ones I did have, the ones that I found more enjoyable, because I have a background in my studies. I actually studied anthropology, so a very social sciences background. And I'm not just saying it because he's here, but actually Jaime's economics class was probably one of my favorites. And the one I found most difficult for me personally was statistics. I don't have an affinity with mathematics. It's not something that I find particularly engaging. However, I think that was one of the classes where, for example, I thought, well, I'll never know anything about statistics, and I'm okay with that. But now I do have at least some basic knowledge. So even though mathematics are not my strong suit, I feel like it's not as intimidating as it perhaps was before.
For me, the course strategy was really interesting. We had a lot of case studies there, and really learned a lot about successful companies, what they do in detail to be there at the top. And yeah, this was just a great course for me personally, and a course that I found rather difficult was actually also statistics. Not interpretation of statistics is no problem, but really calculate the different models in detail, that was not always fun, but we learned a lot, of course.
I echo that. Actually, the strategy course was excellent as well. Yeah, that was really a good one. It's hard to choose. There's lots of very good classes.
Yeah.
That's really great to hear. Thank you for sharing your experience. Jaime, that's all from me, all the questions. Any final words from you before closing the webinar?
I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank also particularly Benjamin and Isabel for helping us, talk about the program. I think it's always best if candidates can learn from or can see what people who have already gone through the program think about it. And thank you very much, Lenny and the UNIMI staff, for organizing all of this.
Thank you. For everyone who is listening, we wish you best of luck in your academic journey.